Hey, YouTubers. This is gonna be the last video of my Game of Thrones character commentaries based on like households and their characters because I'm gonna kind of wrap up the. I was gonna do it as two videos, but looking at the last four households that I want to mention, I don't have that much to say, so I'm just going to put them all in one, and that's Frey, Mormont, Baelish, and Clegane. Those are the last four households I'll mention. As I said before, there are a lot of households, but these are the last four that I'm going to mention that I feel like I have really anything to say about or any kind of opinion or knowledge about. Frey, Mormont, Baelish, and Clegane. Those will be the last four I talk about. And then I'm going to talk about characters in the show um, that are homeless. No, excuse me, just a joke. That don't have a household. Okay, so starting with Frey, um, basically we get to know the Frey household through one main character, Walder Frey. And I'm not really sure what their symbol is because I couldn't remember it. And then the notes kind of give me uh, different opinions. Some note said that it was two towers. Another note said it was a castle, or maybe it's a castle with two towers. I'm not really sure. I got a little confused on their symbol. I think their quote was "We stand together." And when I, as a fan, was watching the show, I um, saw Walder Frey, or remember Walder Frey for the first time when Rob uh, went to talk to him because Rob had to sort of get past this certain section, this certain area of land, and I guess he needed permission from Walder Frey to get past that part of land. So he made a deal with Walder Frey because Walder Frey had like all these daughters, and he was kind of grumbling about that because I guess, in in his marriage or whatever in his house, like all he had was daughters, a lot of daughters. So he's trying to get them married so that he could get them, a life and sort of out of his keep. But he makes a deal. Him and Rob make a deal, and uh, so that one of his daughters can, marry Rob. And then he allows Rob to cross this patch of land or wherever Rob was that he needed permission to get across. So that was the deal. And because Rob decides to marry somebody else, that's what caused the Red Wedding massacre because that was the deal that didn't get done. Uh, when you see Walder Frey and you notice his household, he's a very old man, and he's very grumpy, probably from having survived that realm for so long. I mean, he's probably you get to see a lot of older characters, but he's one of them that you could tell is one of the really older ones. He's just a grumpy old man, really, but he's strong. It kind of reminds uh, or reminded me of the strength of the Iron Island uh, guy, um, Balon, kind of same kind of sort of, strong, harsh resolve kind of thing. And that's pretty much all we get to know about that household and just how it showed how uh, that deal that Rob made with him was so important because he made that deal for strategy for his armies to move to a certain area. He was being strategic when he made that deal, but then he reneged on the deal, and uh, that's, that wasn't strategic. So that's pretty much all we get to know about the Frey household. Um, the next one was Mormont, and this one's kind of weird and interesting. It's different. I think their symbol is the bear, and I don't remember their phrase, but it was some kind of phrase that supported the whole feeling that we get from, you know, watching the household. It's a very strong household, and it's run ironically or oddly or something, surprisingly, that by this younger girl, this young girl. She, I forget her name. Sorry, but she's somebody, Lady Mormont. And now I mentioned in the other video that when Daenerys was wed to Khal Drogo, she was like 13. But here in this Mormont household, we see this young girl. Now she looks like she's 13. So, and when we're watching the show, when we see Daenerys, she doesn't look 13. She looks like 20, 21, you know. But this girl who runs the Mormont household, she really looks like she's still very, very young. She looks like she's 13, like young. But she doesn't act young. Oh no, she's not like your typical teenager, stuck on a cell phone or, you know, chatting with her friends for, you know, 10 hours. No, no, this girl is 13 and she's a lot like, strong like Yara, but I don't think she's a lesbian, but I don't know. You don't really get too much personal information about um the Lady Mormont who runs it, except that she's very young, but yet the whole Mormont household respects her completely. That's pretty much all we get there. The next household I'll talk about is Baelish, which is Peter Baelish's household, and he kind of created that out of. He's sort of like a self-made man. He kind of just created his own household, probably because, like the Baratheon household was created, probably because he's probably a bastard too. Although we don't really know his origins, not from the show. I think he mentions in a couple of conversations how he is a self-made man. And there's a bird. His symbol or his coat of arms, whatever, has a big uh, bird on it. And I don't even know who else is in his household except maybe the prostitutes, because his main business, his main thing is that he's a pimp. He's the pimp who has a whole bunch of prostitutes and the whorehouse and stuff that makes a lot of the money that supports, you know, the mostly the Lannisters, because that's who he's mostly aligned with through the whole beginning of the show series. But I mean, he does a lot of side stuff and a lot of like spy stuff, side stuff. He was wheeling and dealing in a lot of different areas, so you never really know what he's up to. Um, kind of like the other spy, the eunuch. Uh, Varys. Varys is one of those characters that you just never really know what he's up to. But anyway, that's pretty much Baelish's thing. He's a pimp. He runs a whorehouse. He's a self-made man. He made his own household, and we know about him that the love of his life was and is Caitlin Stark. That's the love of his life, and but she married Ned, and so because it's kind of like you know to reference another novel, kind of like in Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby. You know how Daisy says to Gatsby, "Rich girls don't marry poor boys." Well, that's kind of like Caitlin. She married Ned. She did not marry Baelish. He was like a nobody with nothing, so she married Ned because she was a rich girl and she don't marry poor boys. So that's pretty much what happened. So Baelish spends his whole life like trying to not be poor and trying to sort of come up from this like you know poor, uh, unloved existence because the love of his life married somebody else. And he never stops loving her. And a lot of the things he does is either for money, ambition, um, like a sort of a spying kind of a thing to see, what's going to be best in his favor. And then also some of his decisions are based on the love that he still feels for Caitlin. And that's pretty much it for the House of Baelish. Then the last one I'll mention is the Clegane household, and we get to know two characters. Don't really know much. I don't know their phrase, and the symbols were something like three kind of. I don't know if they're wolves or something else, but there's sort of like these three animals on their shields or whatever. Anyway, so the Cleganes, you get to know the Mountain and the Hound. Through the Mountain and the Hound, you get to know, I guess, a little bit about that household. Um, those two characters are very fascinating. I was a huge fan of the Hound. He was one of my favorite characters. I just thought, I mean, he was funny. The things that he said cracked me up all the time. He was like comic relief to me a lot because just the way he talks. He does not hold back. I mean, he definitely says what's on his mind, and I love that about him. He was a champion for Arya when she after she watched her father get beheaded, she had to run off and escape King's Landing. So the Hound had basically quit his job as a knight or a soldier because he had basically just had enough of seeing all the horrible things that he had seen. So he kind of champions for Arya and tries to, like kind of be a bodyguard type to her. I mean, he's obnoxious. So Arya sort of has him on the list of people she wants to kill. But after a while, she gets to see more about him, and I think she takes him off the list because not just because he sort of like, wants to help her, but also because she sees like that there was more to him than just this gruff and obnoxious type of thing that he puts off. His brother is the Mountain, and he's pretty much the bodyguard of Cersei. He's a knight. He doesn't leave the night ship, even though he gets like so messed up that he sort of becomes this kind of like Frankenstein character because I don't know if you want to call it the doctor or the scientist or whatever who keeps fixing him up and trying to heal him after all these like war wounds and battle scars that he gets. Um, they say kind of like this Frankenstein character, but he's also the main champion, the main bodyguard of Cersei. Um, and Cersei even says that when someone's saying, "Well, what about you?" or don't you feel threatened? Cersei says, "Well, I have the Mountain." She has a lot of faith that the Mountain can take care of her. Um, he doesn't really have like we don't really get to see his personality at all. He doesn't really, all we see is his scars, his wounds, and him getting like doctored up in some sort of Frankenstein kind of way. Besides that, we don't really get much of his personality. We hear about something that he did a long time ago before the show started through his brother. His brother has a big scar on his face, like a burn scar, and it's like the Hound says that his brother, the Mountain, did that to him. We don't really know why. The Hound doesn't really say anything except the Hound was really, really hurt by that, and but we really don't know why that happened, and we don't get any personality from the Mountain, so we really don't know anything about him except that he's a knight and pretty much the main personal bodyguard of Cersei. And that's pretty much it. Um, That's the Clegane household. Those are the last four households that I'll talk about. I don't I don't have any way to go through all the households that I saw that are part of that realm or that story, or it's just it was too much. So that's all I can really do as far as households. But I do want to talk about other characters, so I am going to make some other videos to talk about the wildlings, the Dothraki, the Nightwalkers, and some other random characters that came up that were pretty interesting, like the witch, Melisande, Missandei, the Melisandre, the sort of not handmaiden, but the interpreter for Daenerys, Varys, who uh, they call a spider, the sparrows, which caused a lot of drama, and Grey Worm, who's also works for Daenerys, and the men at the wall, the the soldiers. So I want to talk about some of them, and then that'll conclude my character commentary as a Game of Thrones fan.